I watched an incredible TED Talk this morning from Ray Dalio. Now, Ray is the number one investor of all time. His hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, has been the strongest running hedge fund in terms of performance now for 40 years. Now, they asked some really, really good questions in that TED Talk. I highly recommend you checking it out on Google, where they sort of put Ray on the spot around his thoughts on the global property markets, global stock markets, the coronavirus, the effect on the economic system as we know it. So this is just going to be a nice, short, sharp update on that video where we're going to talk about the issue at hand, the solution, and some of the questions that Ray posed that will come out the back of this as well.
So Ray's been sort of talking about some sort of global recession for a number of years now. And now that everything that's going on in the world, he's kind of coming out and publicly talking about it. And I would say that Ray's somebody that you could respect and definitely listen to. He's been very successful over the years. So as we always do, you take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, we're just going to kind of relay some of the things that he was talking about in that TED Talk.
To put it into perspective, Ray's average return on investment over the last 40 years has been stronger than Warren Buffett's. So he's like the dude in the world of investing and corporate banking. So effectively, a big piece of information that we heard is that he estimates around $20 trillion from the global money supply is going to be wiped off through this particular period, whether that's loss of productivity, loss of income, loss of assets. And that is absolutely huge. Now, governments around the world, just the G20 countries or the biggest countries in the world, have committed to an $8 trillion global bailout package, but there's still going to be a significant amount of money wiped off the short-term global money supply, which is going to mean that instead of just a very quick, dip and then we're out of it type thing, it might be more like a U-shape, which is, a slightly more drawn-out recession or depression that could last anywhere between 6 months up to 3 years, depending on the length of history based on the past.
Yeah, one of the major things I got out of the TED Talk was basically we don't know. Nobody knows how long this is going to last, how bad it's going to be. There's not much to base it off in the past. There are some little things. Ray was making some connections to the Great Depression in the 30s. But he never really explicitly said how bad he thinks it's going to get or how long he thinks it's going to last.
Because nobody knows. All we can look at is like previous events that we've been through. Mid-cycle events typically take somewhere between 3 months and a year and a half to get out of. End-of-cycle bigger events like the Great Depression could take 3 years, even for some people up to 10 years for them to fully recover. So it all comes down to your position and whether this is going to be one of the worst experiences of your life or a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is going to be dependent on the quality of your mindset through this period, the decisions that you make during this period, and your position coming into this period as well. So the issue, as Simon said, is nobody, Ray Dalio included, knows how long this is going to last or how deep it's going to get. The reason we're in this situation is we went through a major GFC. The government created really cheap and easy money. Asset prices around the world went absolutely crazy. Lots of people ran out and bought homes they couldn't afford, cars they couldn't afford, personal loans they couldn't afford, got credit card debts, living, as Ray said in that video, I think he said, like living in the future or living a life of luxury as opposed to necessity.
Yeah.
And then this coronavirus has come through and it's forced us into, in Australia, unemployment rates as high as 10+% according to the media yesterday. It's affecting the demand side of the economy. So what we mean by that is if I want to go to the cafe, but the cafe is closed, I, driving the demand side of that purchase, can't afford to do it. It's also affecting the supply side because people that produce products or manufacture things or people that create food or raw materials, no longer have a marketplace that they can export to as easily as they could have. And in a lot of parts of the economy, it's just business as usual as well. So you've got to be careful there. There'll be winners and there'll be losers and there'll be opportunities and very hard times through this.
And that goes for a whole different range of things. We're not just talking about individuals, we're talking countries. Some countries are going to be hit much worse than others. Some countries will figure this out a lot faster and may not suffer as bad as some other places. So it's going to be case by case dependent, which, you know, once again, just don't know who or what is going to thrive through this time.
You know, what we know is that individuals and businesses in strong or stable financial positions will thrive. We know that people and companies that innovate through these times and change their business models, and the media's been filled with this at the moment. You've got gin distilleries in Australia now producing antiseptic hand wash. You've got local guys in Melbourne that were producing face masks, the only company in Australia to do it, doing 3 years worth of work every month at the moment. You've got jean manufacturers creating, you know, garments for the medical industry. And then on the flip side of that, you know, you've got tourism operators that are basically overnight being told that their international market is gone and now their domestic market's gone as well. And so certain industries like retail, hospitality, tourism, those at the coalface of requiring business as usual are really hurt. And then you've got these people that emerge out of these times in a good position too. So the number one issue I see is the global reaction from a government perspective to this. We didn't have, you know, a handbook of how we respond globally to an environment like this.
Yeah.
You know, how do we respond? What if we had have shut down things much earlier? What if we'd taken a consistent best practice approach to working through this? And that handbook is going to come out of this so that next time we go through something like this, it'll be in the back pocket. But this time now you've got some countries like America and Sweden where, you know, the mortality rates are extremely high, the people catching the virus are extremely high, and it's just spreading like wildfire. And then you've got countries like Australia that South Korea that seem to be managing it okay at the moment, obviously with new cases and deaths every week, but, you know, taking some more extreme action a little bit quicker.
Yeah, what Ray was saying about this government intervention or how we're going to overcome this is he believes that we need to come together as opposed to do what we've always done in history, which is go focus on yourself, focus on your own recovery and not coming together. Like, this is a global issue, and you know, what I would love to see is everyone, all the leaders in the world, all the people of influence in the world coming together. Obviously, the world has become super globalized, especially over the last sort of 20 years. Now, you know, we want that to continue because we love the convenience of having a globalized world, but this coronavirus does pose a massive threat to that. You know, it would be really nice to see these people come together and figure out a solution that works in the best interest of everybody and not just a small percentage of that.
And I don't want to just like put it out there like it's someone else's problem, because when you say that someone else's, you know, it's the government's solution or it's the influential business people's decision on how we go through this. Like, Simon and I are taking a much more conscious approach to working through this. Same as yourselves, like still getting anxiety flare-ups because we don't know. But, you know, working through that, like maintaining a good headspace, choosing to live above the line, choosing to be a productive member of society at this time and continuing to do what we love, which is content, continuing to buy really high quality assets in the right markets. Now, we're not saying go rush out there and buy Sydney and Melbourne right now that are 100% more expensive than they were 15 years ago. We're talking about a staged, very careful approach to acquiring quality assets at a good time in the right markets for the right prices. And, you know, it's certainly not an environment where everyone should be running out. It's an environment where certain people that are in good positions might have an opportunity to really set their futures up during this time. Some of the solutions that Ray talked about that governments around the world are doing now is printing money. We're seeing that everywhere right now, increasing the money supply. We're seeing massive bailouts in certain companies, certain industries as well. You know, safety nets being put in place in Australia, like you can freeze your home loan, like you can obviously get some government assistance if you've been laid off, up to $750 a week if you comply, or worst case scenario ending on Centrelink
with your $550 a week.
$550 a week from Centrelink. They're reducing interest rates, as we've been seeing in Australia now for the last couple of years. There'll be changes to taxes that we'll see as a result of this, and there's already some major changes to company taxes coming through now, which will help a lot of businesses. And then there's the helicopter money that's been starting to drop out for the lower income earners in Australia, where $750 or $1,500 was just put in those bank accounts. And I was watching an update from the Australian government yesterday. That money's starting to circulate back through the economy already, which, again, like with unemployment rates being at 10% in Australia right now, things are certainly not rosy by any means. And nobody knows where it's going to go from here, but just keeping your head abreast that, as Ray said, he doesn't know how long or how bad it's going to get. He just knows that there will be a solution, that things will work themselves out over time, because for 500 years of history, it's always gone that way.
Exactly, and one thing that he alluded to and talked a lot about is how we have reacted to bad times in the past, and he was talking about the curve, basically, of growth over the years. And when you look at these depressions or recessions, it's like you don't even see them when you're looking at a graph of 500 years. Like, it doesn't really, you can't see anything, but what you can see is the common trend upwards. And as he was saying, he really feels quite optimistic and positive about the future after this, because there are going to be some changes to humanity and to the way that we operate in this world. And he believes, because it's happened in the past so many times, we will come out and we will be better and we will be in a more fortunate situation, which I, as an optimist, love hearing.
Yeah, I love hearing the same thing. Like, people will figure stuff out. People might start eating more local. They might start buying Australian made. They might start supporting their neighbour in a more meaningful way. You know, we might recognise that relationships are at the centre of our universe and our world. People are already looking after their mental and physical health in a more positive way at the moment. People are slowing down. It's less about luxuries and the stuff, and it's more about being centred and focusing on necessity. You know, people are realising that if they've been working 60 hours a week for the last 10 years and they've still got no security, then maybe they should just prioritise living day to day the way they want to live, and, you know, working towards the things that we've been talking about on video for 5 years. Like, not just always hoping that tomorrow you're going to get another paycheck, but putting in a clear plan that works for you, creating a passive income long term, and really putting yourself in a position so as we move through these markets, which, if you're 30 and you're going to live to 100, you'll go through another 7, maybe 8 of these in your lifetime. You know, these have been 7 to 10 year cycles for 500 years. You know, and understanding that history gives me a peace of mind that we will get through this together. We just want you to stay safe through this. We want all the best for you. There's incredible people like Buffett, like Ray Dalio, like Phil Anderson and Fred Harrison that are commentating on this at the moment based on hundreds of years worth of study of history, and you can benefit from that. So we hope and wish you all the best. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please share this with someone if they'd like to see some alternative media through this time. As we said, we have no idea what's going to happen, but we are optimists and we know that the world will figure this out. And we know, based on 500 years of history, that things will improve. It's just a matter of when.